Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Father-Son Packers podcast, your source for Packers news, notes, and analysis. My name is Tommy, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my dad, Matt. Dad, that sucked, huh?
Yeah. And listeners, we feel your pain. We understand. That was rough. It's rough to think about it and talk about it.
Yep.
So
I've been screaming about it for days now, about how... So here's the thing. Here is my dichotomy. In the off-season pods, we can talk about optimism and how exciting this group can be going forward, and how, it's the youngest team in the league, youngest team to ever win a playoff game. But when we're doing the post-game pod, they blew this game. They had it, and they blew it. They totally let them off the hook. They had an over 80% chance of winning in the fourth quarter, and they just threw the game away. And that's how I feel about it. In a week or two, when we're talking about offseason, when we're talking about the draft, when we're talking about looking forward to next season, I'm going to be able to be optimistic about this season. But right now, they should have had him. And they did have him. And I'm really pissed about it. I'm really, 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 really pissed about it. Because listeners,
this is a season.
I have a special connection to the 49ers. I grew up in the Bay Area. Almost all of my friends are 49ers fans. I've had to watch us lose to them in the playoffs 5 times in a row. Sorry, I've had to watch us lose to them in the playoffs 5 times in a row. We had them dead to rights. Dead to rights in the fourth quarter, you're up a touchdown. You're at the opponent's 22 with 7 minutes left, and the ball, 1st and 10. You had them, and you let them off the hook, and I'm pissed. Dad, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be one of those where it's going to take a little distance in time to feel better about the year. I think to use some green and gold tinted glasses, we'll say, well, they're so young, they haven't learned what process you need to do to stay tight and get everything done the way you're supposed to win the game, and that they're going to be better at that by next year. I mean, yeah, this was the youngest team to ever win a playoff game, right? So
since they went back to tracking,
since they started keeping track of it, back before they actually knew people's birthdays, thousands of years ago.
Apparently, who knows why they weren't tracking it before then? But whatever.
But I still think, even though this sucked in the moment, that I'm going to keep my optimism for the future, even though this sucked in the moment. That's the way I'm processing this game.
Yeah, I'm not as optimistic. I'm seething about this game.
I've seen some of your notes.
Yeah,
I'm choosing to look for the future, the optimism.
So yes, the future, is very bright in terms of, I would say, the team has a lot of room for growth, and the team is very young and has a lot of guys who are talented. But the history of the NFL, I am going to go to. I have a negative.
You want to go through that little spiel now? You ready?
The history of the NFL is littered with teams that thought they would get back, or that thought they would get another chance at it, or that thought they were building to something. The 2016 Cowboys that lost to the Packers, they were the number 1 seed. They had a rookie Dak Prescott. They had a great offensive line. They had a really good roster. They were feeling great. They were like, oh, it can only get better from here. That was their best chance. That might have been their last chance. They might never get that close again. The 2017 Jaguars make the AFC Championship game. They're a play away from beating the Patriots. A play away from making the Super Bowl. Fell apart after that. Never made it close again. And just last year, I bet the Jaguars last year, they beat the Chargers in the playoffs. They gave the Chiefs a run for their money in the second round, and they're like, oh, only up from here. They missed the playoffs this year. You got to capitalize on these opportunities, man. And I know in a month or two, I'll be like, yes, I'm, and even right now, I'm really excited for the future of this team, and I'm really excited for the future of Jordan Love. But these opportunities do not come along very often, where you have a team in the divisional round, you have an 85% chance of winning in the fourth quarter. And I actually went back and looked at it. So on Saturday, the Packers had an 83.8% chance of winning in the fourth quarter with the ball. So that's according to NFL Fast R. And so they have data back to 1999 play-by data. So I look back all the way to there. And using that data, I went in and found every single game that fit the criteria the Packers had on Saturday, where it's a divisional round game or later, and you had at least an 83.8% chance of winning in the fourth quarter with the ball. So, and I was looking at essentially quarterback team pairings. So, like, Peyton Manning when he was with the Colts, Jordan Love with the Packers, Aaron Rodgers with the Packers, Drew Brees with the Saints, et cetera, et cetera. The average number of opportunities like that where you have that good a chance of winning with the ball in the fourth quarter in a divisional round game or later, so divisional round championship or Super Bowl, the average number you get is 3. Even the 75th percentile, higher than 75% of them, is 3. You get about 3 of these chances. Looking back, yes, Aaron Rodgers had 9 of these opportunities where, they had the game in control with the ball in the fourth quarter. But you look, Drew Brees with New Orleans, he only had 5 of those chances. Phillip Rivers with the Chargers only had 2. Andrew Luck only had 1. He got his one and only chance in terms of being in a position like the Packers were in on Saturday. You gotta capitalize. You just have to. You cannot afford to let opportunities like that slip behind you because you never know if you're going to get another chance at it. You never know if you're going to have the Niners right where you want them, in the rain, missing one of their best offensive players, in a negative game script. You've been holding the run well. Brock Purdy is missing his players. He's trying to throw the ball to you, and you just didn't capitalize. And it's really frustrating because, yes, big picture, there's a lot of reason for optimism, but nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. I can't believe
can I add
they
something
let this. I just want to close. I can't believe they let them off the hook, man. They had them. We
let them off the hook. But what I would say, it's at least fun to have a team that gets these opportunities. There are some teams that just don't. And so that's just like, you never get anywhere. And you never get to enjoy some moments. It's nice to have a team where you can enjoy some of these moments.
It's true. But the counter argument is like, when you have, like, when these soul-crushing moments start to stack up, they're the ones you remember. And this one is softened a little bit because, they're 10.5 point. Here's the thing. You tell me before the game, you're going to lose by 3 points and you're going to give them a run for their money. I'd be like, heck yeah. Like, you can build to that. Like, that's building momentum. But when you blow a lead in the fourth quarter and you're the better team for like the whole game almost, but settling for field goals twice, not getting a fourth down on, maybe not getting a fourth down conversion, I guess. According to certain people, they did not get that fourth down somehow. Who knows? But like,
I think it could still be a building moment.
But to me, it is less positive. It's not positive momentum anymore when you fall apart in the fourth quarter like that. Like, it is in some ways because you were the better team than the number 1 seed and the team who's probably going to win the Super Bowl. But if you were the better team, just win the game. Just win the game, and the path is so open.
But I think there's a path for the Packers to be even better in the next couple of years than they were. I didn't say it's guaranteed. I think there's a reasonable path. That's
my exact argument, though, is nothing is guaranteed. You got to take advantage of the moment.
But there are reasonable paths and unreasonable paths. It's like, it's a reasonable path for them to improve next year and the year after because of the way the contracts are structured to the players, majority of players who are on the team right now. And that may not have been the case for some of those teams that fell. They may have, like, I don't remember, like, I feel like, the Jags, they lost a lot of their star defenders pretty quickly from that team.
Yes, and they were an expensive defense, and they had, Blake Bortles at quarterback. But you got scenarios like the Andrew Luck Colts. Like, I'm sure they thought they were going to be, like, doing great.
Yeah, things could not work out, but I think there's a decent chance, and I think a reasonable chance, that they're going to be better next year than this year.
I'm not talking about
the year after that than this year.
But here's the thing. So I have 2 things. I'm not trying to be like super doom and gloom. I'm just very annoyed about and angry about this loss and the fact that You don't get a lot of opportunities like that, and so you gotta take advantage of it. But I guess my second point is like nowadays, young players are contributing at a rate that is higher than ever before. In terms of like first year players can be key contributors on Super Bowl like teams. You think about Antoine Winfield and Tristan Wirfs with the Buccaneers, right? Mm-hmm. You think about this year, you think about the Lions and Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs. And so, yes, the Packers are a very young team, but, you know, sometimes in the modern NFL, these rookie players are like out of the box. They are the player that they are. And growth like is not always guaranteed. I mean, and I don't again, I don't want to just focus on the negatives, but I'm just very frustrated by this loss and the fact that they let a golden opportunity slip through their fingers. And yes, it's good to be optimistic, but nothing is guaranteed because
there's no guarantee, but I think I also don't think it's like so unlikely that they're going to be this good or even better in the next 3-year window.
They might be, but I'm not saying they're not going to be better. Whether they're better or not, regardless, they might never get an opportunity like that again. They could be, I've seen better teams than this Packers team not get as close to winning a key divisional round game as they did on Saturday. Like I would argue, the 2019 Packers, the 2020 Packers that lost to Tampa, like those teams were better than this Packers team. But that 2020 Packers team was not as close to a Super Bowl as this Packers team was today. Because if they beat San Francisco, I mean, they already beat the Lions. They've already beaten them once. That team, that 2020 team, was a better team than this Packers team, but they were not as close to a Super Bowl as this Packers team. And so that's the thing is they might have a better team in a year or two.
You could say that they literally were.
In terms of weeks, yes, but they were playing against a Tampa team that just mopped the floor with them earlier in the year.
Earlier in the season.
And then they beat them again by 14? By 2 scores, essentially. They didn't actually, but they were up 2 scores late. We kicked a field goal, and then we didn't get a stop. And that game had a lot of chaos. We were down...
Were we down by 8?
We were down 8. Yes.
We needed, right. We that's why we needed to go for it.
We essentially needed a miraculous comeback, I guess is what I'm saying. And we had 3 picks in that game. So we had a lot of turnover luck.
That we didn't score on.
Exactly. But my point is, I think that I would argue that this team was closer to the Super Bowl in terms of I think they could win next week. Like, I think they would have had a better chance of winning next week than that team did against beating Tampa, even though that Packers team was better.
Well, we're making a lot of that's a lot of guesses about what will happen next week.
That's a lot of ifs and ands and buts.
Because it's not like we looked that great the first time we played the Lions.
It's true, but we did beat the Lions. As opposed to that Tampa team, our one sample size was getting beat by 30, and then the second one was, it was a tight-ish. That was a weird game. That was a really weird game.
Yeah, there was
because we give up the big touchdown. It's the thing is this episode is half therapy anyway, so who cares? But anyway,
it's catharsis.
Yeah, I guess to wrap it up, I am excited about watching this team in the coming years and all the players growing. But I'm just frustrated because, that's a golden opportunity and you don't get that many of those. It's just so frustrating. But anyway.
Yeah, but I think the answer to that is doesn't almost every team let some of those slip?
Yeah, but you still can't really afford to. I mean,
you'd rather not.
But I'm just saying you don't get a lot of opportunities like that, and you have to capitalize on the ones you get, and it's just really frustrating when you don't. But anyway, let's get into talking about this game. I'm sure that'll help. Let's start with injuries.
Well, this is it's like passing. Talking about this game is gonna be like passing a kidney stone. We're gonna get it done, and it's gonna be painful in the moment, and then you'll feel better when it's done. Trust me.
I would like to be. I would like to be put under for the passing of this kidney stone.
I was put under both times. Thank you very much. They asked me if I wanted to be conscious. And I was no, I don't want to be conscious.
So you're talking about passing a kidney stone, and you have never You have never passed a kidney stone like without being
do you want
unconscious.
to take a nap? You want to take a nap while we finish this episode?
All right. Let's talk about this game. Injury report first. Start with the bad stuff. Zach Tom left with a concussion. They had like the independent person called him off, and he did not return. So that sucks. I did think they really missed him out there, although he wasn't playing amazing, but I think they especially missed him in the run game.
You could tell the difference, after he had to leave.
Yeah.
I think that's the telling point.
Yeah, Jair aggravated his ankle, but he did go back in, and then Quay Walker had cramps, and he also went back in. So those are the injury report for the Packers side. Packers lose 24-21. I don't know if we mentioned that, but they lose on.
It may have been obvious. At least something bad happened.
We didn't get the score in, but they lost. But they lost a close one. They lost one where they led most of the second half, oftentimes by a whole touchdown. Had opportunities to put it away and didn't. It is what it is, But anyway, game breakdown. Biggest moment of the game was interception on the last drive by Love. Changed the winning percentage from 76.5% San Francisco to 99.5% San Francisco. A swing of 23%. Pretty much that drive, we all know, like, he needs to throw it away there, but it is what it is.
Yeah. He went a little too Favrean on that last throw.
And he talked about it.
And that's what everybody said too. Is like
he talked about it. He said, that's the mortal sin, like throwing late across your body in the middle of the field. I remember seeing that. I was like, I can't. I have no idea what he's. It felt like he was playing as though they needed a touchdown. It felt like,
and there were like 15 seconds left,
and there were like
we were right behind him too. It was like, oh my god, I can't believe where that ball's going.
Oh yeah, we were at the game also, listeners. So that was another
one thing
reason.
I would just like to say. I'm going to give a little shout out to Section 202.
Yeah, they were chill.
Fans there at Levi Stadium. They were very gracious.
Mostly.
I think the guys around us were mostly.
No, they were chill. They were chill. They gave us some ribs.
Good
some
game, drive
ribbing.
home safe, that kind of thing after the game.
They gave us some ribbing as we left, which is, all fair.
But
they were very nice.
Not too bad though.
No, not too bad. No, they were chill. Shout out Section 202. But no, yeah. So that was tough. That throw especially. I mean, he just needs to throw it away, obviously. I think he'll learn from that, but it is what it is, I guess. I think at that point, I'm not like, oh, they lost the game because of Love. It's like, no, they lost the game a million ways before that.
That's the
failed,
thing.
I guess, not lost, but failed to win the game. I guess is how I would actually
secure the win. How's that? Failed to secure the win earlier when they could have.
They could have won it, and they just kind of, they tighten up sometimes,
Yeah.
They just tighten up sometimes.
By the time that interception happened, I was like already so far down we're not going to win this game rabbit hole.
I still had a little hope, but I'm surprised that we still had according to ESPN, 25% chance of winning.
Yeah, I mean, something like that.
Because we would have need to.
It blipped up. It blipped up a little bit after those couple completions. It was lower than that. It was like 71% or something when he first got the ball, and then it climbed up a couple notches.
I mean, probably reverse that because we're talking about San Francisco's win probability. But,
I'm talking. Yes. When I say up, I meant the Packers' chances. So that 76%.
So it's more like 81% chance was for SF, and then it came its way down to 76%. But yeah. So I mean, they were down 3. They needed a field goal. Who knows with this special teams? I mean, if that was
this is why I felt like so that our chances weren't that high. It's like we need a touchdown.
Or a
29 yarder.
I felt more like, I thought we could make the kick, but I overtime is always its own special beast. But
that's the thing. If you get the kick, it's still overtime.
Yeah. But anyway, we've been prattling on for a while. Let's start talking about the offense, Dad. But first, let's talk about what they're saying. Got any quotes from this game?
Yeah. So I was looking from LaFleur's quotes. Some of this is post-game, and maybe some of it was from the presser on Monday. So on Jordan Love, he said, like, every situation he's been in, he's learned from it. Said Love forced the pass on the final drive. There was nothing there, and sometimes the best play is a throwaway. It's like, yeah. And then, we talk about, like, look at the future is like on Tom Clemens returning, wants him to return, still determining if Clemens wants to come back for another year. I'm hopeful. I would really like him back. And we talked about this before. That we really would like to have Clemens back. I think he's really made a big difference in Love. And I'm hoping that LaFleur's hope is based on something.
Yeah, I don't know how Tom Clements isn't a household name by now, but he should be. And I mean, if you want to retire, man, like I totally get it. But what if you didn't and you just like wrote it out a few more years? Like, please, it would be very nice. And then, retire for, 15 years. Write a book is what I'm saying. Please write a book about everything that you do with quarterbacks. Write it down and just give it to us.
But start it in a year or so.
Yeah. But, start it this next year as you coach.
Ooh,
and then
it'd be good material for your book if you do it while you're coaching.
Exactly. No, but anyway, yeah, they could really use Tom Clements back. I do think it's interesting, if Tom Clements decides to retire, do they hire Luke Getsy? Just released by the Bears. He was their offensive coordinator. He was Green Bay's quarterback coach before Tom Clements. Just something that I'm kind of putting out there. I wouldn't love the move. I would rather promote from within there, and I would much rather Clements stay. That's like obviously priority one. But anyway, let's start talking about the offense, Dad. Do you want to start with good or bad?
I don't think it matters. We can do either way.
Well,
I don't even have that much good.
We started so negative on the pod. Let's start with the bad so we can end with the good, I guess. Or let's start with the good. We'll go good, bad, good on defense. For me, the good, I had two things. They were decently clean procedurally during this game, despite, being at a very loud stadium away on the road in the rain. And you have to use the silent count.
Crazy loud there.
And that last drive was crazy.
I mean, earlier it was 125 decibels. I was looking on the screen. It's like, and then after that when they got that last drive, so I was like, man, this is much louder than it was. I don't even know what the count was on there.
Yeah. But just one 5-yard penalty on the day, and it was an illegal man downfield. So, pretty clean on the day. And then Jordan Love, handled pressure pretty well, I would say. He was pressured 14 times on the day per PFF, and didn't take a sack. Didn't take one sack, which, is pretty decent. Limiting those negative plays is pretty important. Obviously, you'd like him to not have those couple of turnovers under pressure. So that's why I want to say, did okay under pressure, but didn't take sacks, at least, I would say is a big positive in this one. But Dad, positives, how do you feel like Jordan Love played, if you want to, riff on that a little bit? What were you thinking?
It was a tale of two halves. And I'll just go into this, though it's some good, some bad. I had my things that made us think, but I can jump into it now. So his on-target throw percentage, I got this from Fantasy Life, for the season was 71.2%. So by my count, just looking at the plays, in quarters 1 through 3, his on-target throw rate was 81%, 17 to 21. And then in the fourth quarter, he was only on target for 5 of 9.
Yeah. Which is still, I guess, 55%, but...
Yeah, so quite a bit lower than his season rate.
Yeah.
And one of those throws, it was...
Well, to me,
the off targets was the off of Dobbs' fingertips, where it was a super tough throw.
I thought he could have caught it. Could you see on the slow-mo whether or not he could have caught that?
I thought I should have done a little bit more like freeze frame, but I feel like it was too much out on the tips of his fingertips to realistically think he could have gotten it.
Okay.
So I gave that one to Dobbs. On Love rather than Dobbs. It was a tough throw because of the defender in front of him. So it's kind of tough to give a off-target throw on that one. But so that's one of the 4 off-target there out of those 9.
Yeah, I mean, you can always just excuse around and make it all work. Because I'm thinking about the third down when they have the ball before the missed field goal, and they check at the line, and then they hike it, and suddenly Josh Nijman has to block 2 guys at once. And
right, he just throws it in the middle, and it lands to nobody.
Yeah, and he ends up blocking. Nijman ends up having to block 2 guys. He ends up blocking neither of them. And
that was one of the off target. That ended up being one of the off target ones too, because it went to nobody.
Yeah. But he had misses too. The 3rd and 2 to Aaron Jones, he just leaves it behind him, and then he left. They weren't on this.
That was at least what I've heard is they weren't on the same page. Like, not that Love missed the target. He thought he was going to sit down while Jones kept moving. I thought he
might have. Yeah,
but that's different from the off target to Kraft, where he just plain just missed his target and threw it behind
that's
him.
One of those ones where, yes, it's a miss, but man, it hurts that got tipped in the air and got picked.
Those
like that should just be an incompletion.
So hard where the ball just pops up in the air. It's like, okay, there it is. Like a balloon
catch.
waiting for somebody to catch it.
Call fair catch at that point.
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate. It's like, yeah, if only like went off his hand and went down instead of up.
It's like if Kraft had worse reflexes, he wouldn't have reached those in time, and it wouldn't have popped
those
in the air.
interceptions like almost always hurt the most when you see those. Like, boop.
Yeah. Oh man. Any other positives or because in the first 3 quarters I thought he played pretty well. I did think the Packers offense, even in the second, well, mostly after the first 3 drives, well, really benefited from some circumstances in terms of a massive PI, and then
they had several massive PIs, but and people like Niners fans complaining about the number of calls.
No, but at the same time, they're getting smacked in the back, and they probably would catch it if they weren't getting tackled. You got to take
each play on its own merits. It's like that's definitely pass interference. He ran right through him. Definitely pass interference. He wrapped him up before the ball. Each one was clear.
I mean, one of those pass interferences took away a touchdown because Dobbs had him smoked. I think it was the first pass interference.
And I'm watching that.
He was gone. He was gone. He grabbed him. Tackled him.
He did the right play. He just tackled him because he was burnt to a crisp.
Yeah.
Those are. I mean, yes, the Niners fans can complain all they want about the number of penalties, but just look at the individual plays. Are any one of those a play you would complain about? It's like
the only one I would complain about is Owens really selling that personal foul on Trent Williams.
Trent Williams.
He sold that thing.
It's like he got hit by a ton of bricks.
I mean, I know Trent Williams is big and strong, but
he is kind of a ton of bricks.
Yeah, but no.
Maybe if you tapped one of us like that, we'd fall over.
But hey, 2 thumbs up, my guy. That's 15 yards right there. That's great. But no, yeah. For me though, I
have another positive. So Aaron Jones was the first 100-yard rusher against San Francisco in, what was it, like 30 games?
I totally missed it.
I forgot to get the number in there, and I left myself a little underlined blank in my notes to, I need to fill this in and go back and check it out. Guess what I did? Guess what homework I didn't finish?
Well, while you talk, I could rip out a little query really quick if you want, but
you could probably get a query on it faster. But that was, and they flashed it up during the game too about how long that it'd been a large number of games, well into the double digits, since somebody has had a 100-yard game against San Francisco, and maybe even a couple seasons. So I'll give him a shout out for that.
Yeah, and I thought the run game was pretty, but not great on the day. Like, I'll talk about that in a second. I did want to say though, for Jordan Love, I wanted to tack a couple things on really quick. I thought the throw to Dobbs, the first one on the left, on the left
sideline where he gets the toes in.
Oh my goodness!
I heard somebody say this is exactly the play. Who was it? Was it Perry Goldstein? I can't remember who said this now. It was just like the Rodgers to Cook.
Oh, Cook, yeah, where he has to flip his hips at the last. Yeah, no,
and he's like just got the toes down while he's.
Oh yeah, the guy right on him.
Somebody made a comparison that the same like rolling left, twisting and throwing it down the left sideline.
But I did think that was kind of indicative of I thought all of his attempts looked like super high degree of difficulty. I mean, there were a couple where he was really open. There were a couple earlier, I think you remember, where the Niners defenders kept falling over.
The Niners player just fell down on the slick turf.
There were a few of those where they just ate it, and those were like easy completions. But
there was the one to Dobbs where he just
go ahead.
I guess maybe Reed. Somebody else had one where, but then the other one that was really really wide open was just a good route concept of Reed following underneath. I forget if it's Musgrave or Kraft who pulled the defender with him and just left this open void over on the right side.
Yeah, but I thought a lot of high degree of difficulty throws, and maybe sometimes he made them a little harder than he had to. He did though, per Rob Domofsky. I wanted to add this: all season, he's killed it in the middle of the field. This game was a bit of a struggle. He was only 9 of 16 for 33 yards, and both of his picks came to the middle of the field. So that was something that I think the Packers offense as a whole struggled to attack, and that is like a tough part of the defense, with Fred Warner and Drake Greenlaw on them.
Yeah, that's one of the strongest parts of their defense.
But it felt like we were, by the end of the game, we could only throw out routes, like quick outs. Don't you feel like by the end of the game we were
crazy about like a 0-yard quick out?
Well, that one was very annoying. That was actually the drive that ended up with a pick, but the first pick. But I just felt like by the end of the day, our offense was just like quick out, like just throw to the sideline, throw to the sideline. Like, it felt like we just stopped trying stuff in the middle of the field. And like,
yeah, I don't remember when we last threw a ball over the middle. Of course, on the last possession, you're not going to. Well, they had, but they could. They did one to Kraft.
they had 3 timeouts.
They had the 3 timeouts, so they had the whole field available. But
yeah, but
and then the last play is like, I wish he had thrown it to the sideline.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, I felt like a lot of those attempts to the middle ended up being more out of structure. Like, the one to Kraft was out of structure. The one to Jones was out of structure. That pick at the end was out of structure. So yeah, but the negatives that I had, I thought the run offense was not great, especially going against a team.
Down basis. Yeah, you go over your notes about that.
Yeah, I mean, you're going against a team who had weaknesses defending the run. We talked about that in terms of, they were more middle of the pack defending the run by like EPA per play and success rate. And actually, 26th on the season in EPA per play, I believe, defending the run. So you could run on them. And even we cut it down and we talked about different segments of the season in the preview if you want to go listen to it. But you could run on them. And besides that one massive run from Aaron Jones, which was an awesome run of 53 yards and, should have been on some highlight clips, man. But besides that, Packers running backs had just 71 yards on 21 carries, 3.38 yards per carry. Specifically between the tackles per next gen stats, they had just 10 attempts for 17 yards, fewer than 2 yards a carry on attempts between the tackles. So, interior was not getting much push at all. I thought Elton Jenkins really struggled in this game. Josh Myers was decent pass blocking. I think PFF had him as really good pass blocking and kind of mediocre to slightly below average run blocking. But specifically, I just want to take a look at, Aaron Jones' second half carries. And it's not just on him. I think it's on the blocking too. I mean, he had ones where he slipped and ones where he, I think, cut back maybe a little early. But then there were other ones where it's just like, what is he supposed to do? And here were his second half carries. He had 7 of them. 2 yards, 1 yard. That was on 3rd and 1. He did get the first. 0 yards, 3 yards, -1 yards, 53 yards, that one big one, and then 1 yard. So 7 second half carries, only 1 went for more than 3 yards. That's a really tough place to live in as an offense when you just can't run the ball. And so that was really tough. And the whole fourth quarter, like you said, I think the first 3 quarters per NFL Fast Star, they had 0.197 EPA per play, and then in the fourth quarter is -0.393. And even if you took out the 2 picks, I think it was -0.215, if I remember correctly, if I have that written down right. So that fourth quarter, they just really fell apart. Multiple high leverage misses like that Aaron Jones 3rd and 2, where they weren't on the same page. Protection not getting set right on that 3rd down, like we talked about, where, misses kind of just throwing it away. And then the offensive line, I mean, no one on the offensive line had a particularly good day, I guess is how I would put it. Like, even Tom and Elton really, I think, struggled at times. I mean, Elton gave up 4 pressures, was the most on the line. That's really tough. Zach Tom gave up 2 pressures. Nyman had 3 on just 18 pass blocking snaps. I mean, I think you have something about the pressures allowed, right?
Yeah, so Love in this game was pressured on 40% of his dropbacks, compared to a season average of only 30. But the other thing is about how he performed under pressure was a huge difference too. On the season, his passer rating was 80.3 when pressured, but this game was 34.8, and that's what throwing 2 picks will do for your pressure. But he also had, as pressure started, increasing in the second half, his overall performance went down.
And they just got put in a lot of negative, like okay,
they're having trouble on first and second down. That's something I should have looked at, is like their first and second down performance.
Yeah.
But their red zone offense. So the first 3 possessions, the Packers offense was actually moving. They made some 3rd down conversions. They pushed the ball downfield, got into the red zone, 3 straight possessions to start the game, and came away with a grand total of 6 points out of 3 red zone trips. And on the game, they ended up only 2 for 5 in the red zone. That's a big part of what happened. And the other thing that happened to them for the offense is because inability to sustain a longer drive in the second half of any kind. So Green Bay's last, so not counting the sort of desperation mode last possession, which is going to be quick move of the ball. The 4 drives before that took 12 minutes and 51 seconds. So for about 3 minutes and 12 seconds per possession, after having in the first half 3 drives. Let's not go throw out the one play kneel down. That's not a real drive. but 3 drives for 16 minutes and 50 seconds. So those drives were 5 minutes and 37 seconds per drive. So full, like almost 2.5 minutes more per drive. This helped contribute to how many possessions San Francisco got in the second half. They got 6 second half possessions, not counting the kneel down at the end, after only getting 3 possessions in the first half. So that just gave them more chances to put the ball up and not let the Packers run clock and shorten the game because they just couldn't maintain a drive. And so we already talked about Love's splits in the fourth quarter versus the first 3 quarters in his on target throws. So they had a few things where the offense just and some of these things like the Aaron Jones' second half runs and Love's fourth quarter passing and their overall EPA per play. How much of that was correlated with the line performance after Tom went down? We'll never know.
We'll never know. I mean, Tom was playing okay. I thought he was having an all right game. He wasn't noticeably bad, but by the numbers, he still gave up. He was better he was more important to their run blocking than their pass blocking in this game, I would say, like you were saying.
Yeah, and then the run blocking really dried up after he had to leave.
Yeah, and that's one where I almost feel like I'm wishing I'm looking more at I wonder what San Francisco changed. Did they tell their second level guys to play it differently? I wonder, because second half, they just couldn't move the ball at all. You
remember really all those plays we watched, oh, look, it looks like he's got an opening. How come he only ended up with 1 or 2 yards?
Yeah, the second level.
The way the second level was filling in the hole.
They just could not block these guys on the second level, and it was really frustrating.
That's it. It's the offensive linemen were not climbing to the second level and clearing the way in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games, huh?
Yeah.
Anything else on the offense you wanted to touch on, Dad, or should we move to the defense?
No, let's move to the defense.
Okay.
I think.
What are they saying?
I think I had all my notes.
What are they saying on defense?
So I found this according to Jason Hirschhorn, for that quote from Matt LaFleur. I think this might have been right after the game, and he said, "I thought it was fantastic," referring to the defense. Certainly, you'd like to get a stop at the end, and that's one of the best offenses in this league, one of the best football teams in this league, LaFleur said. And so that was people saying, well, I guess he's happy with Barry's job. Though today in his interview, he held back from supporting Barry right away. Unlike last, so said, well, I got to look, and we're still assessing things. It's really early. Got to take my time and go through it all. This is different from last year, where he basically said, yeah, I anticipate him coming back next year. He said at the post-game interview after last season. So we'll see what happens with that in terms of where the defense goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the talk of the next week or two, right? That is going to be the discussion around Green Bay.
If he decides to move on,
what do you think?
Don't take forever.
What do you think he's going to do? That's the thing. Is I feel like, and I'll tell you,
I am 50-50. I don't know which way it's going to go.
I feel like he's going to keep him because I think the default is he wants to keep him. And so I think, you could argue he's shown enough over the last 2 weeks where it's you played against the two best, two of the 3 or 4 best offenses in the league, and you held them down, with honestly not the most talented defense. So
but
did Joe Barry
here's the question. Did he really do better? LaFleur knows.
Or did LaFleur take over and
did
do
LaFleur
it all
say,
for him?
This is what you're going to do? They started getting better when LaFleur said he was going to spend more time in the defense room.
Does that? I don't
LaFleur
think that
should know if all of that improvement is because of what he did and not because of what Barry did.
I don't think that matters, because if it's what he did, he's going to be like, Barry is really good at communicating my message to the players. He is really good at translating what I am telling, what I want out of the defense to the players. And I think that's, that would be the argument for him where he's like, yeah, I can still keep Barry, even if it's just because I was saying what to do. Right?
I wish that wasn't the standard. How's that?
Me too.
Value added. You want somebody who's going to add value to the team.
Okay, well, here's the question, though. They played the best offenses in the league, pretty okay. Here's the thing:
It's really struggled against the bad ones. That's what drives you crazy.
Is they're
it's like
really
they look
bad.
terrible against the bad QBs. We got toasted by Tommy DeVito.
I think it's two questions. It's one is I can't believe I'm saying this, but one, what if and is it possible that Joe Barry's style of defense is just better against good quarterbacks and worse against bad quarterbacks? And
this is the swordsman argument you're telling me.
But two, if that's the case, is it worth it? Because honestly, I think you can make a strong argument that defense played really, mostly pretty well against San Francisco, and it's a defense that is flawed in terms of bad safeties and missing corners and a linebacker short. And they did about as well they forced San Francisco to punt 4 times, and it was on 10 possessions. And no teams besides Seattle twice and Cleveland forced them to punt on a higher percent of possessions. So, and we all know what they did to Dallas 2 weeks ago. So, here's where my worry is was the San Francisco thing just because it was raining? Because that's a counter argument.
This is what happened, I think, 2 years ago. They gave all this credit to Barry's job and how good the defense looked. And it was entirely weather driven how bad the Niners offense was that game. Had nothing to do with Barry's coaching or the defensive performance, but they gave all the credit to Barry and brought him back.
That's fair. And I worry that they might do that again, that's the thing, though. They did do really well against Dallas, but it wasn't just Dallas collapsing. I don't know.
I was going to say, does Dallas count as one of those good teams?
The defense has my head in a pretzel. It has my head in a full Nelson. I don't know what to do with it because I don't think Joe Barry's the guy for the job, but at the same time, the defense played well enough for them to win this game, mostly against a team that we talked about. It's like a historic level offense, and I know they didn't have Debo, and I know it was raining. But at the same time, it's got to they slowed McCaffrey down. I guess that's my positive here. Let's start with my positives.
So
I just want to say they slowed McCaffrey down mostly. They, let him loose for one massive touchdown run for 39 yards, and otherwise just 16 carries for 59 yards, 3.69 yards per carry. He did still have a success rate of 47%, which was his season average is 46%.
Yeah, I have that little note there that the success rate is basically the season expected.
Pretty good, but you did not let him get those big explosive runs, which is what he's known for. I mean, here's a guy who had
the Niners rush EPA though was 0.187 for the game compared to the regular season average.
Well, yeah, that's what happens when you have
0.034.
But that's what happens when you have 2 rushing touchdowns and only 18 carries or 17 carries.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to happen. But I thought they defended the run pretty well outside of 1 or 2 plays. The 2 touchdown runs were the 2 where I was like, damn, they just did not get where they needed to get.
Tackle.
Yeah. The tackling was bad. You can talk about the tackling. That was legitimately terrible.
Yeah. Do you want to do bad first and end with a few good things? I don't have a whole lot of good things. And I actually made this kind of short overall.
Okay, official position, I think they should move on from Joe Barry, but I don't think they're going to. And I could pretzel my brain into a way where I kind of understand the decision.
A few more. We had pretzel, we got full Nelson, sleeper hold, figure four.
Sleeper hold,
any other?
Know. Arm bar, I don't know.
Suplex.
But all I know is I don't want to see it, but I can kind of see a way where you can make that argument where it's they're doing well against the best teams, but I don't trust it. I don't trust it. But anyway, bad stuff, Dad, bad tackling, bad a few things. What do you got?
Yeah, so I already talked about the EPA per play thing, but on 3rd and 4th downs, the Niners rushing success rate was 100% for the game.
It's not great.
That's no bueno.
It's not great.
Once again, as you mentioned, unable to get the last stop, giving up a long clock-killing touchdown drive. It's I would rather they get a bomb in 30 seconds.
And they were 3 for 3 on 3rd down in that drive.
Yeah, 3rd and
on
10
a drive where they needed a touchdown. So if you stopped them on just one of those.
Yep. And 15 missed tackles on the game. The game we said we would like to see some good tackling in this game.
Yeah, you could see. I mean, that's the thing with the Niners. That's they're very tough at that. But
They're really, they're really good. And it was wet. I think like it's got to be harder
just slipping
tackle,
off people. That probably, yeah.
So those are the things. I didn't want to go too much into it, but that was the things that I had as bad things.
So for me, it was, the third downs was really tough. I mean, you let the Niners go 10 of 16 on third down, 62.5%. Their season average is 47.5%. You'd expect them to get 8. You let them get 2 extra on top of that. And you let them go 4 of 5 on third down in the fourth quarter. 4 of 5
that's gotta hurt.
On third down in the fourth quarter, and your only stop was on 3rd and 10. Yeah, no, I'm back on they need to move on from Barry. Because you've got to...
I mean, I feel like they need to move on from Barry, but...
Yeah, you have to get a stop there.
When I say I'm 50%, I'm 50% on whether they will.
You have
not
to
whether they should.
You have to get a stop there.
I just think you've got to have... And this is the thing where the worst case scenario is letting them grind out a long drive for a go-ahead touchdown. This is where you be aggressive, you try to get a sack or force a bad throw or turn or something, and if you give up a long bomb, you get the ball back with plenty of time to march down and take the game yourself.
I don't know that many people would agree with you on that one, though.
But be aggressive anyway.
Yeah, but they were.
That doesn't necessarily mean like somebody totally hung out to dry by themselves, a la,
Yeah, that's
Kevin King.
Mike Pettin. I was going to say the Mike Pettin, Kevin King, but no,
that doesn't mean quite that aggressive.
Yeah,
especially when you're leaving the guy who's left out on an island is somebody is injured coming into the game and can barely run.
It's not Kevin King's fault that he got put in that position. That sucked. That sucked for Kevin King too. Yeah, no, I thought the D-line was pretty good in this game. I didn't have any other negatives. Did you have any other? Did you have any other negatives?
Well, I should. Oh, for any negatives? Nah, that's all I want to talk about for negatives.
Okay, all right. Positives. What'd you have? Anything more?
So I'll go. They held the Niners to only like 53% of their. So I should say their dropback EPA was only like 0.159 for the game compared to 0.298 for the season. So it was like only half as good as they usually are on their dropback EPA. So that's good. You know what they'll do. I'll give a.
I do think though that dropback EPA stat was heavily influenced by. I mean, Purdy just missed a lot.
Purdy's inability to hold on to the ball, whatever the reason was, why he was overthrowing and missing.
Well, something I missed was that he started the game with the glove on and then took it off.
I saw that in the rewatch. I missed that, and I was watching it, and I rewatched like, oh, they just said he started with a glove and decided to take it pretty early in the game too.
His first drive or something, he took the glove off. But
a lot of those were because he had balls flying all over the place in this game, except when it really mattered on 3rd and 10, and he's throwing this pristine ball.
If it had kept raining, I think they could have been okay.
It was kind of bad.
And then it started pouring rain on our drive.
Their last scoring drive, the rain stopped. And then as soon as they kicked it off, it's just coming down in buckets on the Packers' last assessment. But I was like, Hobbs. Hobbs. It's like, what movie am I talking about? Brooks looked really good. 4 pressures, 4 hurries, and on only 16 pass rush snaps.
Yeah. Man, they just couldn't quite get home enough. Because that was a mismatch there.
They couldn't quite close it. They're getting hurries, but not sacks. Not enough sacks.
I had some nice stats from Next Gen Stats. They put together a essentially pass rush, average separation from the quarterback. The league average is 4.5 yards, 4.54 to be specific. Every single one of the Packers was below that league average in terms of average yards of separation from the quarterback. Preston Smith led the team. He was 3.43 yards on average from the quarterback. That was also better than any Niner on the day. Gary was at 3.78. Clark was at 4.01.
Oh, so when you say less than average, you mean better?
Better than average, yes. Yes, they were all better than average. The average is, like I said, near 4.5, and they were all closer to the quarterback than 4.5 yards on average for each pass rush. So they were either, and so that I like that stat because it takes into account also like pocket collapsing. And
they did a good job. I was like, sometimes there was one play I think where I'm watching Slayton push the center back into him, and then he's like slows up to like jump up to try to block the pass because Purdy's just getting ready to throw it. It's like, oh man, just keep bulldozing that guy and shove him into Purdy while he's trying to throw instead of trying to jump up and block it.
Yeah. I mean, that was a positive for sure. And then, like I talked about, they held the run down pretty well for a lot of the game, except for a few plays. And, they made him punt 4 times, and it's a really good offense. So, it's tough. They were tough to stop. They're a good team, but you had them.
And Kenny had a good game. He had 4 pressures as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the sack.
They had a good...
including a sack.
They did a lot of the things that we talked about that they needed to do to win this game, except, I think, run the ball. I think that was the big one. They did not run the ball well enough.
And that it was actually doing well in the beginning. They actually were getting some surge from the line in the first couple possessions, and then it kind of stopped.
They just stopped being able to move the ball at all.
I really liked what they did on that 2-point conversion.
Yep.
That was a pretty sweet play.
Yeah, that was the one to Jones, right, where he just leaked out of the backfield. I think they're running like a
behind the bunch, the bunch formation.
All running in breakers, and then he went
he went out
right where
wide,
they were vacating the space. Yeah, it was nice.
All alone.
Yeah, there were definitely some good play calls. I mean, the Jordan Love hitting the pump fake to open up the Bo Melton, man. I mean, he just makes plays, I guess.
It's Bo Melton season.
But yeah, anything else on the defense though, Dad, or should we move on to special teams and I guess talk about special teams?
Special teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm done with the Rich Bisaccia experience.
You probably want to start. You probably want to end the special teams on a negative. So can I get my positives out of the way first?
I mean, they did some good things, but it's just it was just chaos. It was like a house on fire on special teams. It was all over the place.
I'm giving a shout out to Eric Wilson for hustling downfield the whole way and diving on Nixon's fumble on the big return.
Yeah, Eric Wilson can play on my team any day of the year, any day of the week.
That was not only did he's run downfield to stay in the play and just be in position, but to dive there and pick it up clean on a bouncing football.
Yeah, that was a heck of a play. And they have
Colby Wooden with the block.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's just a house on fire because the massive return before Eric Wilson recovers that fumble, and then Keyshawn fumbles, and then Eric Wilson falls on it, and then you're blocking the kick, and then, I mean, we got to talk about it. 41-yarder to make it a 7-point game. They miss. I thought Orzik had snapping issues earlier in the game too. He bounced one of the early field goals to Carlson.
Luckily, that was only a 29-yarder.
Yep, but he bounced it to him. And the snap wasn't. I mean, the snap was fine. It was good enough. It wasn't great, but it was good enough
on the 41-yarder.
On the 41-yarder for Carlson to make it.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that.
It wasn't a great snap.
There's no reason for the snap and the hold that would have caused that miss.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't like down the middle like you would want it at all. Like it was still on Whelan's body, but it is what it is. But yeah, Carlson's got to make that. I mean, it's as simple as that.
My notes on the whole, so there's that miss, and I put it like institutional failure at all management levels to simply accept this level of kicking. And they told us at the beginning of the season that they're willing to accept this level of kicking because we're going to go with growing pains. And it's like, there are times for growing pains and times for not. It's like, what about, other positions you let people, make mistakes?
But do you want to know what happened?
When you have a player who's like who makes mistakes, he's a rookie on a defensive lineman, he's on the bench.
But do you want to know what happened? What happened was they were like, oh, this team is not a kicker away from competing for. Someone actually already wrote this, and I don't know who it was on Twitter. They said this, and I was kind of thinking this as well, but they put it in writing first, and I think it was Paul Brittle, but it might have been Ryan Wood. But whoever it was, shout out to you as well. They did not think they were a kicker away, and it turns out they were.
Yeah,
so that's what it was.
The problem was they should have realized that a little earlier.
Yeah, I think that's the problem where I think, they have let that be Bisaccia's call and he made the wrong call. I think, he got the promotion to associate head coach. His special teams was bad all year. They were the most penalized. They were like 32nd in DVOA or below 30 in DVOA by the end of the year. They're missing key kicks left and right. I think Carlson,
he missed a kick in 10 of his last 12 games.
Yeah, exactly. Like, bless his
in
heart.
5 straight, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
he was tied for last among kickers who lasted the whole season with the team for a percentage of makes from between 40 and 49 yards.
Yeah. I mean,
we found the sweet spot.
He was one of the worst kickers in football this year. And Bisaccia chose to ride it out with him, and I think that's on him, and that's why I think they need to move on from both him and Barry at the end of the year, because I don't see any reason to keep Bisaccia around. It's not like he's put out particularly good special teams units. He's been here 2 years. He put out the 26th best, I think, by DVOA last year, and then below 30 this year.
And it's It's bad to get worse in your second year.
Yeah. And like, it's been all his guys. He got a promotion in the offseason. He has some personnel control. He picked the kicker. I mean, he's very high. He's one of the highest paid special teams coordinators in the league. I mean, like, it's just where's the return on investment? I guess my question. Like, you're putting all of these resources into special teams, and you're losing games because of it. Like,
yeah, we've had several games where we lost by, less than a field goal or less when we had a missed field goal.
Yeah.
And when you're the highest paid,
you expect results.
The standard is set. You've got to deliver.
Yeah.
And you should be not surprised if you're bad and you're getting paid and you're supposed to be one of the best in the league.
I don't think they're gonna move on from both, though. I think that's too much overturn in one offseason, especially for a team like you're firing both coordinators. You had such a successful season. Matt LaFleur's like, yeah, my back is killing me. But Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love and the players on the team.
We'll see. So I think one of the things that LaFleur said in the interview, I think it was today, about, well, we're going to interview all the players and the assistants and see what people think in the season, and then we'll be making decisions on what we want to do with staff. So we'll see what happens.
I mean,
maybe we'll get some honest opinions of what the player. I mean, we won't ever get them what the players think of the coaches, but maybe that after that we'll see what they think.
Yeah, but anyway, we're getting a little long here, Dad. Anything else on special teams you wanted to talk about, or should we move on to player of the game?
Let's move on to player of the game. I had trouble deciding.
Who'd you have?
I just went ahead and went with Carl Brooks.
Okay.
I'm excited about what Carl Brooks can do in the future. And he had a good game on limited snaps. He only played 16. He played like less than about a quarter of the defensive snaps, but still, he performed when he was in there. You could also go for Kenny if you wanted.
Yeah, I think both are
if
you want to
pick if you wanted to pick somebody on the defensive side.
Yeah, for me, I think I would have to go with Romeo Doubs. Back-to-back games where he was like pretty much the best receiver on the field for the Packers and the best offensive option on the field. In this game,
I saw like the difference between him and the next highest yardage total in this game.
I mean, he had 4 catches for 83 yards on 6 targets, and then the next highest was Jaden Reed with 35 yards.
35 yards.
48 more yards than the next highest, and led tied for lead with the team in catches with Jaden Reed. So
nice catches under duress or on the toe tap on the sideline.
Right on the sideline, and this comes a week after dominating the Dallas game. I mean, a lot of speculation was like, I think Watson, like Wicks and Reed are all ahead of Doubs. Like Doubs said, yeah. But not
yet.
Hold
my beer.
He said, but not yet. But because I can still watch this for a second.
Hold my beer, youngin. You're one who's just 1 year behind me.
Yeah, just 1 year behind me. I know, right? He's the vet in the room. But anyway, I thought he was probably their best weapon throughout the playoffs.
It might be fair to say he was their best player on offense in this game.
Yeah. But anyway, anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. I forgot to give the spiel earlier because I was being annoyed and angry about this game. But if you like what you hear here today, come give us a follow on Twitter at FatherSonPacker. We tweet out when we have new episodes. We're going to have new episodes still. We're still going to be here. Even though the season is done, we're going to be doing an episode a week through the whole offseason, talking a lot about the draft. It's probably our favorite time of the year. Be talking about coaching decisions, be talking about if there are any coaching moves made, we'll be talking about them. Don't you worry. Talking about roster moves, free agency, OTAs, minicamp, an episode a week throughout the whole offseason, giving you Packers content. So once again, come follow us on Twitter at FatherSonPacker. And
we'll be doing our season review. We'll be looking at the free agent market and who's going to be leaving, who we might be able to add. And that comes out in a flurry at 2 a.m. Those first couple of nights, it's like all these signings.
It's very fun.
And then there's the Senior Bowl and the Combine and figuring out who's looking
the Shrine Bowl. I mean, we
who
got
might
everything.
Be
Pro days,
moving up the charts in the positions that we want.
We'll be doing
and
mock
part of it.
Mondays.
We'll be looking at our analysis, figuring out what positions do we want.
Yeah,
so that'd be something we'll be
there's
looking
a
at
lot
too.
of, And like I said, this game, very frustrating. They should have had it. It's sad they let that opportunity fall through their fingers. But it's still a very exciting team going forward, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking about it. Once again, at Father Son Packer on Twitter, and then subscribe to us on your podcast platform of choice, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We even put all our episodes on YouTube, so you can come subscribe to us there as well and check us out. But yeah, anyway, thanks for listening.
One
Anything
thing,
else?
I just something we tweeted but didn't mention on the air. Thank you, Eli.
Yes, thank you, Eli, for the
getting us
very
to that
generous
game.
gift of getting us to that game. It was awesome, even though the result wasn't awesome. But it was still a great experience. It was a fun game. Fun. It was fun to be at the game. But yes, so thank you so much for listening, listeners. Keep listening to us in the rest of the offseason. And until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.